Welcome to Wheels TV On Demand. We're wild about wheels.
In a changing world, technology and design must also travel in lockstep with the dynamics of progress. Far removed from the massive mastodons of the dream car age of the 50s, Honda's EPX high fuel efficiency design study tackles a litany of transportation questions that confront the demands of 21st century mobility. And yet, the heritage of the classic American dream car and the wellspring of technology that defines the modern approach to automobiles may both be represented in one of Ford's most recent concepts, the Lincoln Sentinel.
The direction that I gave the designers on this car was to come up with something that was immediately identifiable as a Lincoln. We wanted a next generation, full-size luxury car, full interior, full luggage capacity, with the performance of a luxury car today, meeting the fuel economy standards, et cetera, that we need in that kind of a car. Now that was about the direction that I gave them, but I did say I wanted that car to be immediately identifiable as a Lincoln, without any badging on it, without any lettering, any nomenclature whatsoever. I want that car to look like a Lincoln. So let's understand what a Lincoln really is. Now that's the direction that I gave them, and they went back and did their research and understood what was best in Lincolns over the year, what really, and I mean over, way back to the early Lincoln Zephyrs. And you'll see, I think you'll see indications of a number of different Lincolns in this car, but they're all cues that were specifically associated with Lincoln over the years, right down from the front end of the car, which has a very contemporary interpretation of a Lincoln Zephyr grille, which happens to have the turn indicators built into the grille texture. So these are all different variations on a theme, but I also made it very clear that I did not want a retro car. This is not supposed to be a retro car. This is a new car. It's contemporary, but I want, if you will, a contemporary classic. And the other direction that I gave on this car was I want this car to win the Concours d'Elegance at Pebble Beach 50 years down the road.
Which brings us full circle. The collection of dream cars here at Pebble Beach are but a handful of survivors from the over 250 estimated dream cars built by the Big Three during the 1950s and 60s. Joe Bortz from Highland Park, Illinois, owns many of the dream cars filling the Pebble Beach display. As a collector of these rare automotive artifacts, he is all too familiar with the fate that many of the other dream cars have met.
Each car had a crush order on it, and mainly it was for insurance reasons. The cars were not tested, and if they got in the hands of a private party and they had an accident, of course they would be exposed, the manufacturers would be exposed to all the liability conditions of any other car, and not being tested, they had an extreme exposure just in that area. So they decided that the safest way for them would be to crush the cars, and that was mainly General Motors and Ford. Chrysler had another idea, and they thought that some of the cars could be sold in countries where their legal liabilities would be reduced because of the time and distance with the other countries.
Many of our cars languished in warehouses for years and got dustier and dustier, and of course eventually pieces fell off of them, just part of the aging process. Most of the warehouses, of course, were not heated year-round, so the expansion and contraction, the moisture condensation and then evaporation, just like any aging process, takes its toll. We all eventually have that happen to us, cars and people alike. And I think they were just simply lost. They were scrapped, as you know. There's been stories in magazines about some of them turning up out here at War Hoops, which is a salvage yard out a few miles north of here, and lucky collectors finding them. This happened a few years back. But many of them, alas, really were scrapped, went to the chopper, and that's a sad thing indeed. Some of our scale models, beautiful, exquisite scale models that were built for many years to test out ideas before we committed to the full-size cars, went to the warehouse and again languished for years and eventually went to the chopper. Hate to say it, but it's still going on. It still happens today.
The 1955 Chrysler Falcon Ghia, the 1956 Dodge Dart, which became the Dodge Diablo in 1957, the 1953 Chrysler d'Elegance, the 1954 Dodge Fire Arrow Roadster, the 1954 Plymouth Belmont, the 1956 Packard Panther. Now, looked upon by some as the automotive equivalent of sideshow curiosities, they were once signposts to tomorrow. Cars that took us inside the minds of our most brilliant designers, while at the same time taking us beyond the horizons of our own perceptions of the possible. What few of them remain can still challenge the eye and test our readiness to accept new things. And as the world expands into new areas of discovery that continue to reduce the distance between fantasy and reality almost daily, there is still much we can learn in the lessons being spoken by the dreams of steel.
Explore your passion for automotive entertainment with Wheels TV, the first television network dedicated to our automotive and motorcycle lifestyles. Like everyone who loves to drive or lives to ride, we're all wild about wheels.